Welcome back in, folks, from the break. We're going to do our shuffle again as we do every hour after the matches, and we've brought in Cookies. We've moved out Connor, and we've kept Tanner for at least a little bit longer. We're getting into our fourth match, Aqualix taking on TTK. Cookies. Aqualix, they're looking good. I mean, we always expect them to look good, but we always know that sometimes they might not look good, but at least they have so far.
No, we don't. We don't expect them to do anything. Going back to stage 2 of last year, when they disappointed in the playoffs in that iteration of the team, I no longer expected anything of this roster. Okay, so let's get it correct. I also didn't expect Gasher to drop 14 kills, for example, and lead the team an entry when everyone else on this team, with the exception of Beastly, is supposed to be a better entry than Gasher. Now, you got a lot of those on defense. But still, what the hell? I didn't expect anything. And today, I don't know what I'm expecting at all because Aqualix is predictable as something that's very unpredictable.
A game of roulette, possibly, would you say?
Perhaps.
Maybe.
Perhaps. But I feel like it's not as unpredictable as a full game of roulette. It's more like the black and red, right? Like, what are you going to put your money on? Because you you could score with either one on any night. Now, TookTheKids, things are up in the air for them at the moment. Forceful. It's not been easy for them, let's say.
No, they're a roster that historically just loves to go to overtime. I feel like all of stage 1, I think they had maybe 5 or 6 of their matches go to overtime. Yesterday was the exact same thing versus Karn & Co. They went to overtime. They had a 5v2 on round 15 and they blew it. They completely blew it. Karn played out of his mind. He got a kill with smoke and they just shut down the entire push coming out from TookTheKids. And it was the other thing that was really stressing me out about that game too was Packer was like a one-man army. He was the only guy with above a 60% cost last game. He was playing on island. He was fighting for his life. He was getting picks, but it just wasn't enough. And if TookTheKids is a team that wants to go to overtime every game, like we saw in stage 1, that's exactly what we're gonna need. We need to see them find a way to win, in overtime and find a way to close out these damn games.
Okay, well, let's talk about again the anomaly of Aqualix. Cookies. We've all heard that recent, the show All Gas, No Breaks. They're now with this interesting duo of Beastly and Gasher coming together. It's all gas, all breaks, all at the same time, but it's working. I mean, they didn't get that win yesterday, but it was interesting.
It was interesting. It was a sloppy game. It was back and forth, teeter-totter.
Mhm.
Aqualix didn't just get raffle stomped. They didn't just hand the game over to LG, not by any stretch of the imagination. They fought tooth and nail, and a lot like TTK on the other side. I think this is turning into a team that's going to perhaps go the distance with just about everybody. They're not going to just beat themselves anymore. And yes, Gasher played. Gasher, how long Gasher's been playing this game? Since I was a pro, Gasher has been in competitive. That's over 5 years. That's half a decade.
It's been a while.
And Gasher against Luminosity Gaming played one of the most biblical performances out of Gasher ever. In my opinion, I've seen him play for a while. And, as I said, it was a messy game. And some of the rounds, some of the gunfights, some of the whatever didn't go their way in that LG game. It's going to have to be their case for them today. They're going to have to win those rounds. That's obvious. I know. Breathtaking analysis. But that's kind of how it goes. If you lose close rounds, you lose a gunfight that leads to 10 of your teammates dying, you tend to lose. Maybe those roll their way today. They win. Things happy times.
Well, we're always talking about Gasher's leadership in that team, but the other thing that we'd like to talk about as well is Mr. B's leadership with his team. He's a guy that seems to be able to take this ragtag crew and make something of it. And I don't mean ragtag. I'm not knocking anyone in the team. It's just the patchwork nature of it all.
No, that's the right word. This is a ragtag crew. They were formed right at the beginning, or right at the end of the transfer deadline. They've probably, out of all the rosters in Challenger League, had the absolute least amount of time to prepare. So they're the closest roster we have to a pug stack. I just want to highlight one thing too. In my early season predictions, I had both of these rosters towards the bottom of the leaderboard. This game actually might turn out to be one of the most important games of the season or of the stage for both of these rosters. If this is going to be your 10th and 11th place team, whoever wins this game might be the team that avoids relegation at the end of the season. the end of the stage.
And the scary thing is, and to your point, it could go that way because everyone seems like they've got positives surrounding their team in the stage. This is going to be a tough stage.
Absolutely. This is one of those one of the most competitive stages of Challenger League that we've ever witnessed. And last stage was very competitive. This one's even more. It's like they were at 10, they went up to 11 this stage. So both of these teams need to dial in, they need to focus in. Like I said with TookTheKids, they need to really find a way to close out these games and help Packer out. If he gets a little bit more support from some of the other gunners on this roster, then maybe they might be able to pull it out. But Gasher, he loves to throw a monkey wrench in everyone's plans. We saw it with Aerial Rise last stage, basically denied them first place. It's going to be a very chaotic, I would say, but a very good match nonetheless, very competitive between these two teams.
Well, the thing that I'm most excited to look at, CJ, is when we get into the map veto. This is going to be tough, I think, for TookTheKids because I feel like Aqualix does have the edge on map advantage.
You do?
I feel so. But, I mean, this is a team that you're still trying to figure it out on the side of TTK. At least with Aqualix, there's a little more stability there.
I half-heartedly disagree, Brim.
No, don't half-heartedly. Either tell me I'm wrong or move on.
You're wrong.
Okay.
Did you watch the last stage where this team acted like they couldn't play anything other than Villa, but TookTheKids was going to theme park? They were doing this and that. So I don't know. I don't agree with that one, Brim.
Oh.
And once again, we're going to theme park. So right now, I guess in your defense, Aqualix, when they played theme park last stage, it was well past the point that they were ever contending for anything. They did decide to play theme park against LSR, and they didn't win.
But they looked good.
But they played hard, and they played good, and they played disciplined, which is what we're preaching for them. That's how they get the consistency that allows them to close out games. Both these teams can't close out anything. Play a map like theme park, slow things down maybe a little bit. Like the odds for both teams, because TookTheKids also had a good theme park last stage.
What have we learned here? See, I tried to do analysis and it didn't work. When we try to do each other's jobs, we do it improperly. See?
Yeah.
So we'll just continue. You stay in your box, that box over there.
I'm in my lane.
Yeah.
I'm in my lane right here.
Lane. I'm in this lane. And Tanner, as we go to the predictions, talk about your lane. What are your thoughts?
I mean, my thoughts are this game. It's early stages here. CJ, what are you doing? What are you doing?
You know what's
you
hilarious?
Stay over there. You stay over there.
I didn't get to analyze the other game. No, I'm going to talk about this.
Go ahead.
I didn't get to defend myself.
Take my box.
Sounds like you went way over into Tanner's lane.
I'm over here.
My
CJ.
lane.
I'm swerving lanes going 90 because you know what? Karn.
Good luck, everybody.
Karn's team last game. I believed in that roster, and then Indy. I don't know what Indy was doing. They could have clutched that out, and I almost would have won that prediction. And you know what? Right here, I'm the only one picking this Jekyll and Hyde TTK team, Franken TTK. I don't even know what they are. Gavini's pizza slices. I'm thinking they're gonna win this game. Sorry for taking your swerving in your lane, Forceful, and stealing your analysis right now, but.
Hey, at least you made it worth it because that was hilarious.
I'm not laughing.
I'm laughing that you think TTK is going to pull this out. Aqualix, they stepped up their game a ton, and TTK didn't step up their game at all. In fact, I would say, hot take. Actually, I don't even think it's a hot take. TTK looked way worse this stage than they did last stage. They had Tragical, the #1 rated player in all of Challenger League, at one of the highest KD differentials, and they got rid of them.
Man.
And now they replaced them with guys who don't really shoot back. So I don't know.
Tragical's in chat today, and I was like, Tragical, what are you doing? You're a top 5 player not playing this stage. That's never happened, by the way. I don't know what TTK. I don't know what the hell's going on that team. Okay, but I know they're winning this game.
I disagree.
I just got to say something. You sound really certain while you're talking, CJ, and the minute Tanner starts talking, all of a sudden you get this look in your face like, oh my God, what have I done?
Oh my God, he's right.
He's just sweating bullets. Okay, enough of our kidding around. It's time to get to the serious action. We are going to Meme Park of all places. This is going to be AQ taking on TTK.
I ain't gonna lie, guys. That killed me right there.
Yeah.
I was wiping tears away from my face
Oh my
before we got
God.
here. So I had like a whole intro. I was gonna be like, oh my God, Tron, Woosh are playing each other. AQ, Gash looked good yesterday. It's all out the window. Like I can't
Yeah.
I can't top the buffoonery that just happened. So
Like Jim said it perfectly. We're going to meme park. It's all fun and games at this point, really. I don't really know what we're bound to see here today. Again, we had a complete facelift, or I guess face down, depending on how you want to look at it. Pardon for TTK and then AQ. They are just on the come up. They almost beat the best team inside of stage 1 here for CL. And in terms of issues that we saw yesterday, significantly less issues overall as a team for AQ. They just need to be a little more consistent on finishing out rounds. When they play together as a team properly, especially for going for roam clears, which you're going to see a lot on theme park, they would completely wipe out Luminosity. So I have a really strong feeling they could definitely replicate that against TTK, especially if they just stick to default stuff.
you know what I just remembered, by the way?
What?
This really is meme park for TTK because 2 important events in their history happened while you and I were casting this map. One was Mr. B typing in chat and then losing an OT.
Oh my god, I remember that.
Or losing the round, and then when you and I
lost all together, right?
Oh yeah, they almost lost all together. But then when you and I were casting theme park, that was when I just happened to look at Twitter and saw that after the game that they played previously, Tragical was LFT. So this is very much in association with TTK. This is meme park for them. Hopefully they can come out better today. Maverick and Cade, the 2 bans coming out from Aqualix, not too surprising here, at least as in combination. So for the final ban, I imagine since it's TTK, probably Valkyrie. Yep, there we go. Might as well deny one, a powerful tool that AQ would like to use, but also just a powerful tool in general. And John, I mean, is there anything else to really say about this ban phase? Let's just get into the game.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a lot to say except for, you know, the slight readjustment on the Val. When TTK had the option to bring her out on Oregon last game, I felt like for them it just took way too long to properly utilize it. We saw Mr. B trying to communicate a lot with his black eye cameras on that IGO role, trying to tell his teammates what to do at certain times, but it really only became hyper successful when Triss was just using it on his own to self-enable himself when he was actually going in for those early entries, which is why he had a very slow startup on that entry stat. So I guess just removing it and not allowing, you know, Aqualix to utilize it in their second half, better safe than sorry, and now it's just less information they're going to have to worry about when they transition over into their second half as well.
And they are still bringing some operators to compensate for that fact. We see Mr. B go to the Echo right now, so some of those yokais don't have any BPs, but definitely some indirect intel, you know, those alibi clones in case a wayward bullet happens to strike it, some Malusi Banshees as well to signify if there's somebody, you know, walking in a certain area. So they have some important operators to provide some more incidental or accidental intel or side intel, whatever you want to call it. On Aqualix, however, we had a blitz. Sadly, it's gone. Gasher's going to Sledge, though that's a lot more terrifying prospect for TTK if you saw Gasher's performance on Sledge yesterday. But we see Tra go to the Nook, and that is an operator, of course, we've seen move into the pick rate and creep into the pick rate a lot on many maps, but on theme park specifically, I mean, it was just a week ago where in the NAL we saw Gunner alt walk from Gong to Lab as Nook and then ace in a round. So this operator on theme park certainly can do quite a bit.
Yeah, she is nasty. When you have such a gigantic map and you can have sometimes defenders just have to solely focus on one portion of the map, like Cash Balcony, for example. If you have Tra just creep up yellow stairs and get ready for the fallback or just push up hyper aggressive to shoot the defense in the back, that can be a super easy way to go work a couple of kills. And specifically for Tra, last game they played on Chalet against Luminosity, he was able to work a double kill walking up Fireplace main stairs because the defense had no idea he was pushing up in that direction and they were solely focused on that library hop-in.
Intel gain on the player playing in long haul. This is a very dangerous position for a lot of defenders. If you don't play this properly, you could easily find yourself succumbing to a nade or a few well-played shots in the attack. But Packer is doing his best to balance all of these factors in his head right now. And at the same time, if you're able to survive here for quite a while, it can waste a lot of time for the attack. But unfortunately for Packer, he'll only burn about a minute. Tra follows up with a second onto Gavini, the two probably highest profile pickups on the side of TTK coming from T3. Unfortunately, both taken down, not having much impact beyond the first minute.
Yeah, just playing in the middle of yellow. Once Packer ended up dying, Gavini decided to fall back, and he walked right into the crossfire of Tra, or at least the cross line of Tra, now granting that 5 versus 3. A minute 30 to go, and the roam game is still relatively stable. We did see Woos up above, and he's still prowling about in the midst of control room, now moving back towards initiation on that Mozzie. But besides that, if Aqualix can just drone him out, which they just did, and then tag team him from both construction and then waiting hallway, they could probably confirm this kill on the Mozzie and then start playing for vertical.
Or even then, just hold his cutoff. I mean, he certainly can't rotate through security because, as I was about to say, Gasher or somebody else is probably on the security hatch. So, excellent work by Aqualix right there to nail down that final roamer. They are a little bit low on drones. They only have 4. But after getting 3 kills to start in the early round, as long as they can keep a lock on Dragon, keep a lock on Trist, this should work out okay. He does strike and fire some shots over to Beastly, but he suffers more to the Yokai than the Malusi.
Not much time left here for TTK to try to salvage much during this 5 versus 2. Again, the vertical establishment is now there for Aqualix, and even with Yokais eventually stop the plant, again, it's a 5 versus 2. Aqualix, they just have to stack up and again keep playing as a team to make sure TTK cannot pull a card and co and try to salvage this round.
Yeah, Mr. B will try to take a fight. He's immediately cut down by Aether. Trist on a long angle will spot one, but he's just waiting for Aether, and Aether is more than happy to take up that final kill and get a flawless round for AQ to start out.
And, I mean, it's what I mentioned during the prep phase and when we were going into the actual startup of Theme Park. Just establish that team play early on. We had Psychosis get that entry over near Cash. Tra was just doing his thing on the Nook, creeping up yellow stairs, waiting for that fallback. And they didn't just fully forget about the top floor because especially we don't have that Nomad or flank watch. You need to always be alert that somebody could just walk up a stairwell or still be on the top floor and shut you down while you're focusing on the vertical play and moving a floor lower. They were able to isolate out the Mozzie. Even having Gasher on the hatch to guarantee he's not dying against him puts in that 5v2, and all they have to do at that point is just get a wall open and hit the site.
We certainly have an odd pick coming out from TookTheKids right now. As you can see, Packer locked in Cav, and he didn't just lock in Cav. That was the first operator he picked, and he immediately stuck with it. So I am very intrigued to see how this works out for Packer. Of course, the problem with Cav is, the operator kind of lends itself to a ratty playstyle, trying to go unnoticed. They're getting some interrogations. Fortunately, you just kind of drone, and you're pretty diligent with your drone economy and your drone work. You can usually pin down a Cav pretty easily, but I just appreciate Packer trying to go for something off the wall. Maybe he'll be able to spot a player like Nook, crouch walking around the map, and due to the Nook, what the Nook is probably hoping to do to the defense.
Interesting selection here by Psychosis on the Dokkaebi. That might be a potential way to inadvertently try to, help counteract the Caveira, although, like you mentioned, you can just drone her, and that's going to most likely detect her. It always is nice to have that extra reassurance policy that, a corner does not have, a roaming Caveira creeping behind it, and you will then get interrogated because you're by yourself across the map. But that won't be a problem for the most part because it looks like we might see a rush, which is pretty common on a site like Lab, and Mr. B almost allowed the floodgates to open because he barely survives that grenade through the drone hole.
You can see how far everybody from TookTheKids is off-site right now. Mr. B is pretty much the only one actually on-site. I think he actually, not almost the only one off-site. I think he is the only one on the site. Packer off-site, though. First one to fall. What do you know? The Cav, unfortunately, not having the impact I think he was hoping it would, but I think this was about the end we all were expecting the Cav to meet. Mr. B somehow tanks a second frag grenade, but with a third one coming in, I imagine with how low he is, he is not long for this world. Now that he's out and gone from Lab, the closest person nearby is Woos, but I don't believe he's even in the site. He might be down close to bottom yellow. Yeah, he can rotate on in, but it seems that TookTheKids might be resigning themselves and playing retake at this point. He does spot Tra all the way down in the long hallway, though, so one body off the board for Aqualix.
First of many logic bombs here for Psychosis to feed in some extra information. With a minute 30 to kill, we can have Aqualix kind of sit back and just fully confirm where the defenders are coming from, especially now this rotate has come into full effect by TTK. They do not want to give up this site for free.
They do not, but Gasher is primed and ready to start pushing into this bathroom window. I don't know if he knows that Woos is on the opposite corner. Yes, they do. They have a Z ping on that exact location, or at least that he might be on that side. That might be the defense as well. Either way, Aether just sends it on in, heavily pre-fires that corner. Now Gasher goes on through, moves on into the site, but Woos gets one. Not a second, though. That's Gavini who gets on the board, but he's done his job. Even still ADS, Gasher picks up one, but there is Woos, the X-Factor right now, whose flank has worked out. The Beastly spots him in diligent timing. Now it's a 1v1. Gavini outside of the site at the double door. It's on Beastly to try to make this play. Either get the bomb down or go for the kill, but it doesn't seem like he's operating off of any intel. But Gavini swings. He misses it. puts Beastly down to 1 HP. That still gives Beastly an opportunity to clutch this out, albeit a slim one. Another lengthy pre-fire from Gavini, but he'll fall off of the gunfight. Rotate to the opposite side of the doorway. Beastly moves to the opposite site, starts putting the bomb down. Now Gavini's got to move on in. Where's he going to go? Going through the rotate hold bait in the wall, but the bomb goes down successfully. He's got to catch Beastly on the fall off, spots him for just a second, but he still whiffs the opportunity. He's missing so many of these shots. Beastly is just one bullet away from death. You got to finish it off. This would be the whiff of the century if he messes this up, but he does not. Again, one bullet was all that's needed, and he might have expended almost 100 rounds, but he finally lands the one after quite a long time.
Yeah, took a very long segment to eventually win that 1 versus 1, but at least it didn't matter all that much because, again, Beastly was only 1 shot away from death, so eventually Gavini can close the gap, get the defuse, and equalize in terms of the round count. It was a fantastic start for Aqualix. They killed Packer off the bat via Tra just walking around as the Nook. They found the kill onto Mr. B eventually, despite taking a couple more grenades than probably expected. I think the only major issue by Aqualix was that they just took way too long to actually hit the site. If you kill the only anchor on that objective and you have somebody watching for the vertical above in Cafe, there really isn't much you have to worry about except the retake. And when you have the man advantage, when you have a blitz and Finka, the retake, it's going to be pretty much impossible at that point. So I really did wish to see Aqualix probably hit the site a little bit quicker than expected, but, you know, when you are a little low on information, it doesn't hurt to just drone out for a couple extra seconds. It just gave the opportunity for TookTheKids to retake the site.
And it also doesn't help that it required 3 nades to take down Mr. B. Like, I imagine if that first one came through, we would have seen that execute happen, but then it took another, and then it took another. So definitely a lot of factors going against AQ that stopped them from pushing on in and stopped them from getting the round overall. We will see a couple, actually, all of the attackers switch their operators, but the most important ones, or the most interesting ones, will be that Ying and that Amaru. One thing we will see a lot on Bunks and Daycare is an Amaru just hop into that break window, try to win the fight with the player playing by there, and then leverage that for some site control and execute soon after by the attack. I'm assuming Tra will go for that, but hey, we'll see if he has something different in mind.
What we might have happen as well is maybe Psychosis with the Candles potentially helps out Tra by blinding anyone that would be close near the rotate that leads in through break room. But at the moment, Psychosis is nowhere to be spotted. I believe he's closer in towards Cafe entrance, so he's not going to be that much service to Tra as of now. Maybe he'll just go on a single play once we see Cafe fully cleared out by the side of Aqualix. No one pushing in through the first floor either, but tons of information is being gathered via Tra. He's probably going to have to bait outside for quite a long amount of time, as again, that Gara hook, it can make a lot of noise, so if your team is already not pushing in through the building, you could be dead meat if you're just by yourself and isolated.
He's doing a good job right now just keeping a bead on Mr. B running around arcade stairs at the moment. Psychosis will jump in, but Mr. B has already retreated up that staircase, and this is a difficult position for the attack to work through. You just have so many angles to clear on the top rafters, and Mr. B might do the job for the attack. He hops on down, gives up that advantageous position, and falls to Afer. Both the Sledge and the Ying coming away with a kill of their own as they enter the building.
Yep, once again, just being isolated out. Trist will fall, a close call potentially, and Mr. B trying to save the day is just going to get cut down as well. Once again, Aqualix have a strong lead off in the first minute 30, and it's really only a matter of time before they begin to go for that execute. Once again, Tross still just waiting outside on that Amaru, and Packer potentially forcing out some toxic babes early on as well. Besides those toxic smokes, Carter, there really isn't much utility stopping Aqualix from just going in for the push.
Oh, there is not, but TookTheKids still have the advantage of this position, holding on top of that railing and Cafe stairs. It's a lot of angles for the attack to clear, and Woos and the rest might be able to hold out for a little bit longer, though as these Candelas come in, it looks like him and Tra, Psychosis and Tra, timing this properly to send it in through break right as those Candelas go through to counter that very fact. Woos and Gavini both get one, so it might be too late for Tra to have impact, but no, there's the Malusi, and there's the round for AQ. The plan works out. It might have been a little hectic as it happened, but they close out in the end.
Wasn't directly through the windows, instead it was actually Candelas being thrown from lower arcade up into the arcade balcony, which normally if you want to try to stop anyone hopping in through break room, you're going to have someone maybe close in that rotate to try to immediately engage on you. So at least it forced Tra Pardon to only have to worry about anyone that would be directly inside or maybe all the way through yellow hallway perhaps. So it did lessen the amount of peaks he would have to worry about during that 4 versus 2, quickly turning into almost a 2-on-2 potentially clutchable for TookTheKids. But again, the utility, it was just a multitude of it, and there wasn't really much left for TTK to slow down Aqualix, and they just had so many bodies to throw out the problem.
Once they're able to get that, or at least some amount of main stairs pressure, you know, they haven't fully taken it yet, but they're able to constantly contest that position in the early round, it's very difficult to make that take work, or make that defense work for TookTheKids, excuse me. Maybe like an Azami might have helped a little bit, you know, use some more Kiva barriers, throw them on the railing so you can actively contest down below a little bit easier. Not entirely sure, but once AQ got those first picks, it was just a matter of time before we saw it work out. We'll go down to Armory and Throw now, which was the first site we saw TTK go to, and another Amaru pick coming out from Afer, of course, the first floor site. Can't really Amaru like we saw on Bunks and Daycare, but hey, you can still launch yourself through a window early on and get some easy control.
Yeah, potentially just trying to clear out the map as quickly as possible. With Throne being on the bottom floor, you have to clear out the entire top floor with a roam game afoot, and that can waste a lot of time, especially if you go for rather default push. So having that quick access way into the building can definitely be a huge thing, especially if TookTheKids is not really focusing on an Amaru and instead is probably expecting someone like Tra to be on that nook, maybe creeping about on that first floor. Not even having to worry about the first floor and just only have to focus here on this top one could be a huge factor for Aqualix to once again work an early pick.
Nobody playing very aggressively in this main hallway like we have seen TookTheKids do before, so Aqualix won't have to waste as many nades this time, though there are players contesting it. Not to say that there is nothing from TookTheKids, they're instead just playing behind a deployable shield and not pushed all the way up at the end of the hallway like we see teams do sometimes. So we'll have to use some nades, but might not have to worry about as aggressive of a play. Bathroom, though, Vini has now started to fill that space. He'll back off for the time being, but this seems to be the stage that's been set for the first bit of engagements in this round.
And I love how for both Afer and Trot on that Amaru role, they aren't just sitting outside doing nothing. They are actively using their drones. They're gathering info for their teammates. And although the info didn't work out, at least you're doing something to try to help out people like Trot on that entry role. Here comes the hop in by Afer. He's greeted by the Mozzie, but a beautiful bounce back by Afer. Gasher connects on the Gavini as well, and all of a sudden, it's a 4v3 for Aqualix.
This just should not be a 4v3 right now. That was a shot that was a lucky and a half coming out from Afer. There are still some players who can, well, make things difficult for Aqualix on the roam right now. Packer inside a security interest, moving up Dragon, but no, he just comes up to support the Wamai's retreat back and will hold down on the site for the remaining minute and 10 seconds. But Aqualix have the vertical control they need with over a minute to do with it. Might even be another kill coming through if Gasho can land one of those two nades.
One thing that TookTheKids could potentially attempt to stall for time is maybe try to go for the impact trick. They have 3 impacts in pocket, so depending on the vertical play that's being established by Aqualix in these next 50 seconds, there could be a small gap that Packer and also Triss could find to at least slow down Aqualix since they are a little short on time.
That'd be good as well with those yokai still on the board inside of the site. If they're able to delay and execute for Aqualix and keep one of those yokais alive inside, that would be huge. But unfortunately, the first prong of what you and I were talking about fails. The impact trick misses. Yellow wall opened up, but Aqualix aren't exactly long on drones. Only 2 remaining after Packer shot that one. Almost take down his position with a nade from above, but he's able to dodge it for the time being. Instead, Peaks, wow. Peaks split and, wow, gets the kill anyway. Psychosis loses the fight with the Wamai, and that gives a lot of breathing room for Packer. Being actively droned by this yokai, this could be the play of the round right here. That seals it out for TookTheKids. Afer expects it, but he loses the fight anyway. A 3K for Packer, denying the plant. Trist with the impact grenade, not an impact trick, but a kill with the secondary utility. Gives TTK their second round.
And still being able to hold down and remain calm. For TTK, they knew they had to go get aggressive and work that pick since their player in Furnace had to get flushed out. The only real option was to actually go on that flank. Packer winning a very important 1-for-1, being fed that information via the yokai, stopping the plant altogether, and then an impact grenade by, I believe it was Triss, finishing off the final player for Aqualix. That was great solidarity by TookTheKids. And once again, they're going to equalize, keeping us pretty darn close so far in this first half.
And definitely a risky play by Packer to peek outside that door on split, but it does pay off, and he's able to play off of it. But at the same time, if he's not able to make that work, that's basically Armory opened up for AQ to start moving in. So sometimes you have to take those gambles to win the round, but it is worthwhile to note how dangerously close it came to tipping AQ's way if Psychosis is able to hit those shots. TookTheKids, after their victory, will go up to initiation for the first time in this game so far. All 4 sides played. Mr. B will go to the Clash. Where he's going to play here? I don't know. I'm very intrigued to find out. Maybe we'll see him push a little bit up in security and try to hold inside of there, or not, actually probably focus a lot of his time over by Arcade and Cafe. That's what I think AQ's going to push from.
You can tend to be a mobile mirror. That's why I like to call Clash for the most part, especially when you have someone who's very vocal on communication, or just having someone stacked up with you. If you sit still in the Clash, you can potentially go in for a swing. The only thing to worry about, I could imagine, would, I don't know, maybe a talent shield here and there, potentially, depending on where Gasher wants to push in from as well. That might force back somebody on the side of TTK, as they're not going to be able to shoot anyone if they just sit behind that shield and start throwing out utility to force back those defenders. Also, to a side note, once again, Tra is opting to go for that Nook, and I mean, if Mr. B is vulnerable from the backside and Tra just goes and creeps up yellow stairs, for example, once again, that could be, again, a huge opportunity for Aqualix just to take the lead.
Keep an eye out on where Tra decides to push from. AQ just really going all over the map right now, just opening up a lot of hatches, trying to decide where they want to push from, but it seems like they're leaning over towards pushing from cash and security up Dragon Stairs at the moment, with Tra all the way on the opposite side of the map to wreak some havoc on TTK's backline. The Clash has pushed up, and, well, Aqualix are now more than aware of what Mr. B's strategy is in this game. He's pushed up that cash corridor, looking at the doorway and being kind of that active mirror like you were talking about.
Just waiting around, expecting someone to eventually peek, being able to feed that information while the rest of Aqualix works their way up and through top Dragon. Mr. B just falling back closer and closer towards his site, having more natural cover and not having to be overexposed, especially since you have multiple nades in the pocket of Aqualix. Depending on where they get tossed and how they land, that could end up being a free kill on Mr. B, especially if he does not play close to any utility.
I think you certainly haven't found the solution just yet, even with all that utility. Mr. B will just continue relaying all this info. Now, I believe 3 to 4 players all on this side of the map for AQ. At least 3. No, one of them is in spawn still. So that leaves 3 on Dragon, 1 in spawn. But where is Tra at the moment? And how is he going to factor into this plan from AQ, who so far in the past 2 minutes have been completely stopped?
I'm going to be shocked if he tries to walk up either yellow or arcade, and yep, our observer just manages to catch Tra, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. If unaware of Trist's position, though, and if Jaeger is able to hear the Nook walking up one of these 2 stairs, that could be a huge way to only have to focus on both top Dragon and this cash push.
Now with that Aruni Gate reactivated, Aqualix will have to use some utility. It'll be the smoke grenade, I believe, from Gasher. But oh no, that X Factor Tra spotted by Trist on almost flank watch for the defense right now. Spots the Nook, but that's not even the first pick. Packer, seconds before Tra is finished off, takes down Aper all the way outside on Dragon Balcony. Beastly has worked up inside, very far into security, but nobody from TookTheKids has fallen just yet. Not because they're not taking fights, don't get me wrong. Both Packer and I believe Trist as well were getting very aggressive on these angles, but now they're relying on utility as the smoke canisters go down. Only 10 seconds remaining for AQ to push on through what has been a completely stalwart defense from TookTheKids. Beastly gets the first pick for AQ, but with only 5 seconds left, Gavini can pick all of these kills up. Switching to the pistol, he's got to try to make the most of a shaky situation all the way through, but still one that was very much TookTheKids round.
And I love the discipline there by Trist as well, just holding down the back line, making sure that any kind of Nook play that we've seen a few rounds beforehand in this first half gets completely shut down before it becomes too big of a thorn in the side of TookTheKids. Because Trist was able to confirm that kill on the Nook, it allowed the rest of TTK just to solely focus in on actually just denying the outright execute. And because Clash was still on the board, she was able to actually shock a couple people, slow them down, and still feed tons of information for the defense to make sure they did not have to overextend and potentially lose a vital 1-for-1.
I also really like just having Trist sitting over by Bunks and Daycare just to make sure, hey, in case, Aqualix or anybody, whether they're Tra on Nook or just anybody wants to try to hit the back and throw our entire defense into chaos, just sit over there. Be on the lookout for that, and that ended up working out because, in all honesty, if Tra is able to get that play off, that's probably what AQ needed to get something going because, well, certainly whatever was happening on top Dragon Stairs was not really much of anything. They just sat over there for pretty much the entire round. So, like that decision by TTK. Now, moving on forward, moving back to lab on that first floor. Packer goes back to the Caveira. John, I really thought that was just going to be like a one-off pick, but is this just the strat?
He is doubling down, apparently. I don't know where Packer might want to set up this time. maybe not in the same spot. Maybe he'll be a little more active perhaps, or he will, like I said earlier, try to double down on the pick and also placement altogether and wait until, the final 30 seconds and just try to shoot people in the back, potentially land a couple of 2-taps with that suppressed pistol. One thing to note, Beastly rocking the sledge once again. I could imagine maybe Aqualix wants to try to get a little bit of vertical later for the post plant, or at the very least just have extra grenades. There's still 2 in the pocket, some smokes as well for that smoke plant. And also to note, the Ying in mix with the line, you could just immediately hop into sight, especially if you kill that one anchor, or maybe both, because Mr. B and Woos are kind of playing close to one another. At least Woos is on the top of L. He could fall back in the bathroom quite easily. So it all depends on what kind of information Aqualix can feed themselves and potentially what kind of picks they can work, as per usual, I suppose.
Well, some active intel on a player inside a throne, but nobody from Aqualix really in a position to act off that intel right now. Mr. B has also repositioned himself from the previous lab defense. Instead, before, he was sitting pretty much directly by that window into B side, but now he's sitting over in A side, just chilling right now away from any potential nade spots. Psychosis tangles with Woos on yellow stairs and does successfully push him back, but no kill and not even a little bit of damage done to the Legion.
He's able to escape with his life. Psychosis expecting another player on the top floor, and Afer just waltzes in through barrel window, eventually traded out by that Legion who just rotated down from yellow stairway, but still closing the gap just a little bit here for Aqualix. It's definitely going to go a long way moving forward, especially now that they have cleared out a majority of this top floor.
But Woos able to rotate back and use some of those goo mines to slow down AQ's push, which so far hasn't exactly been expeditious in a lot of these rounds, especially coming off the heels of the previous one where they basically sat in one spot the entire time, and also considering the previous lab defense where Gash's Blitz was pretty much a non-factor. A little bit worried for how they're going to do, especially because, I mean, this Cav is still in the win, John.
I'm not too sure if Aqualix are actually aware of the Caveira pick this time around. We saw last time when she was in play, she was immediately droned out. So again, just that element of surprise we've seen Aqualix bring out, especially on that Nook, could actually bite them in the rear this time since the Caveira is still alive and well.
Mr. B now repositioning a shield, anticipating a push down yellow from AQ, which he's definitely not far off the mark with that one, and the way AQ seem to be looking right now. I'm not even sure exactly what kind of plan they have going. I mean, they got this top floor control. We can see them still gathering intel as this round drones on, but there's just not been much. But now Packer works his way up yellow, gives his position away with a couple suppressed shots, and now we'll hide down beneath the stairs. First nade comes through, and, well, it does manage to find Triss, despite the fact he aggressively takes that angle. Another flash goes on through, but Mr. B can easily dodge these, and that's your execute completely done and dusted right there. Gasher not able to get this kill for the time being, but maybe there's still some hope for AQ. Woo spots one with the LMG, and never mind, he falls, so I thought Mr. B dodging those flashes was the sign of a 4-2 half, but instead, AQ somehow make it work despite a lot of nothing.
I mean, you cannot shoot a metallic shield that is just charging right at you. So despite finding a clean kill on the Lion, the fact that we still had the Blitz right behind him, backing him up, it was an immediate trade. And again, the site presence overall, it was just a little too weak, where we still had just enough enforcements by TTK to still get that defuse down and just lock out the last pair alive, that being Woos. I'm incredibly glad that we saw a bigger emphasis on that vertical play, especially since we didn't have early nade presence on that first floor. It allowed people like Triss, who are holding important portions of the map like bathroom, to get completely eradicated by Beastly, and also give extra coverage to guarantee that Mr. B could pretty much be in only one portion of the map to allow for a very efficient trade.
Now switching sides, we'll see an Azami come through, which, John, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know I'm right. We did not see Azami a single time from TookTheKids, which is pretty surprising. And in my mind so far, I mean, obviously Azami has been, a pretty dominant pick on a lot of maps, but Theme Park and Bank, those have really been some of the two maps where I have seen some very effective Azami play, and not to see it at all from TookTheKids, and now Aqualix will take use of that very powerful operator. Excited to see what Psychosis does, and we will also see, assuming Packer doesn't change it, Ascends come in as well. So, well, I actually have both new operators introduced into this comp season on the board.
A little bit of variety does not hurt anybody. Interested
not at
to
all.
see where Packer actually sets up their projectors. That could be probably the most intriguing question about this. If they still want to go for, a top to bottom clear, which is incredibly common on Throne and Armory to actually utilize the sledgehammer, or if they want to go for something more direct and just open up the back maintenance wall. Either one could potentially work out, especially if you know, again, how many players are actually in the site. If you're able to isolate them, throw those projectors, try to force the plant, and then play for the retake, that could be huge, especially when Packer lights up the kill feed in the first 40 seconds.
And that's such an important pick, too. I mean, we were highlighting both Sens and the Azami, but Psycho on that Azami gets taken down so quickly in this round. Those Kiva barriers, even just 1 or 2 more, could have a big impact on Aqualix having a successful early round or not, or having an easier early round or not, and he is cut down oh so quickly. So hats off to Packer for managing to land that one, and it seems like vertical control can also be established fairly quickly by TookTheKids. Not much presence on the top floor by AQ right now. This is looking like a really good first minute and a half.
Great cam placement as well. Make sure that everything is currently guarded. That way there is no chance of equalization here for Aqualix. They have to remain at that deficit until we eventually see this site execute unfold. A nade is tossed out over the soft part of this double wall. A second one to confirm. Eventually it should break the mute jammer. It should be close enough in proximity. Tra goes for Nitrocell toss up, but no one's close enough towards that detonation, allowing us to remain in that 5v4 and the back wall and maintenance to open up leading into site.
And look at how much has been accomplished by TTK. They've opened up the maintenance wall, they have vertical control, Azami off the board, and we still have over a minute remaining, and they still keep the man advantage as well. Gavini has naded Tra, and that Sens gadget goes in, cutting the site cleanly in 2. TookTheKids, well, they'll hit go. The green light has gone, and they are moving quick towards the finish line. A 1v4 now for Aether as he stomps down Dragon, spots one, Yana off the board, now sitting right on the diffuser as well, and tags up Gavini a little bit, but he completely erases that damage with one single adrenal surge. What an excellent execute and excellent first attacking round for TookTheKids.
Yeah, once they were able to eliminate the only person inside of Throne Room, having the projector to completely stop anybody from looking around near double door and forcing people to walk in through split doorway or try to go in a flank was perfectly done by TTK to basically minimize a lot of the proper options that Aqualix had to try to actually stop that defuse from going down, especially since we had TTK in a 4 versus 3. We had people on cams that were already dead just watching and cycling through them to make sure that the rotates and flanks were being guarded quite heavily. That way TTK had the heads up going into those final few moments of the round, and their site presence was top notch, not only because they had the projectors to cut off a lot of key sight lines, but they also just had the man advantage and just had a lot of room to work with.
Look at how quick of an adjustment AQ make. Of course, they keep the Azami, but they move Gasher to it, and Warden immediately on the board. Yeah, exactly. And there you go, exactly. Packer just moves to that Zofia once they see the Warden come into play. And hey, Warden is, not a bad pick, at least in terms of guns. He's got the MPX 1.5, but that is a piece of primary utility where maybe you could have had, an Echo on the board, some kind of further intel if you wanted. I mean, they got a lot of important ones, John, not going to lie. They got the Jaeger, they got the Omai, got the smokes as well, but maybe a mute for some drone denial, but instead, they'll have to stick with that Warden because of the possibility of that sense.
You still have a couple flashbangs on the board, so he won't be completely useless, but he's incredibly situational, so it does suck to kind of have to suck it up and just kind of stick with the Warden, although you can put yourself in some pretty prime spots to just out-duel attackers that are not expecting you to have that 1.5 optic unless they detect you early on that, oh, this guy's on Warden, he's got the MPX. I could probably guarantee he's actually rocking the 1.5 today, but so far, first 30 seconds, CTK just doing their due diligence on the drone game. They've got somebody up on control hatch as well. Everything looks pretty normal so far, and with the fact that Aqualix do not have, well, I was going to say they don't have a very heavy presence on the roam game itself. They've got a pretty top-notch extension to try to slow down TTK as long as humanly possible, but so far the nade game looking pretty damn interesting by TTK, I have to admit.
Yeah, nice angle found by, that was Gavini all the way down below, and I like that. I like the lineup overall from TookTheKids, but especially that rotate by Packer to the Flores. I mean, with 2 deployable shields, so many Kiva barriers from the Azami as well, you're going to need all that utility to try to burn the deployable shields and Kiva barriers that Aqualix are bringing out. Psychosis with the first pick, though, and, well, that is the Flores gone, so unlucky that I just hyped up that possibility, because now you have to rely on those nades mainly.
Unlucky for Psychos, I suppose. I guess he will just only be using range to his advantage and not the ability to deny any flashbangs from burning out his retinas. A minute 20 to go. TTK still struggling to gather any last-second information. They have to work some sort of pick, and maybe this play over near the back hatch could definitely be huge, but again, it's Mr. B by himself with the case. If he ends up dying here, that could be a huge blunder for TTK as well.
Tra is so focused behind this deployable shield where TookTheKids are rotating. I mean, it is only one guy in that spot, but if they are not careful with how they deal with this deployable shield, he could easily go maybe 1-for-1 or even more here and stall a little bit more time for Aqualix. But the nade goes in, caught by an ADS. Second one comes out as well, but nothing to catch it there. So Tra is forced off. Excellent by TookTheKids to not give too much ground there, but they have to start working this man advantage back.
40 seconds. Case still needs to get retrieved, but at least it is in a comfortable spot. Afer snipes down Gavini, and now things are looking even more dire here for the side TTK, but Tra just unfortunately disconnects. There is a small glimmer of hope, but it will not last for very much longer. Psychosis finds a headshot on a Mr. B. Triss may collect one, but Afer's there to greet him as well, leaving just Woos alone with 20 seconds left to kill.
He's knocked Afer down to below half HP, so it is a little bit more manageable. He has Case as well, but there's so many angles for him to cover, albeit two of them stacked on top of each other right now. You'll have to move beyond the boundary of Cafe, and right as somebody swings, he actually falls. Woos able to win that one. Now only 5 seconds remaining, one to his right, one in front of them. Aqualix will just play passive, play time, and take round number 8.
Yeah, well, at least Woos is sticking the defuse, but they can just look right at him. Yeah, Beastly will eventually collect that one kill and grant Aqualix another round in the books. They had a pretty strong start, collecting a few kills here and there, and forcing TTK to fully rotate into Cafe and force them in a pretty uncomfortable position outright. They weren't really able to fully get past Cafe at all. They were losing a lot of crossfire situations, and again, because they were at a 5-on-3 at one point, it was just very challenging to say the least, because they just didn't have a good start on that round, Carter.
And we will have a rehost. Unfortunately, Tra not able to rejoin the lobby, so we will have to remake it and take a couple minutes for a pause. But overall, even with, kind of getting the bait and switch with that Warden pick, they go to it. The Sens is switched off. It was overall just a solid round by AQ. Kind of almost, the way they won that was a far cry from the previous AQs that we have been used to over the past year or so. It wasn't from somebody, pushing super far up in a position or stopping the attack from completely entering the building, though they were doing that in a way, but it wasn't from their direct presence. It was more so from the threat of AQ's positions. Traub playing behind that deployable shield, getting the kill on Packer once he was already starting to make his way into the building. AQ were more focused on just holding the positions they had set up and taking fights with the attack to be sure, but not at all getting as aggressive as, say, they even might have just one stage ago.
Yeah, I mean, they just had to only focus on Cafe towards the latter end of that action phase, so they didn't really overpeak all that much. They won a couple of gunfights here and there, and then when it came down to the final 20 seconds, 2v1, 3v1 at one point as well, they just fell back and were like, you know what, if he plants the bomb, it doesn't matter. We can retake. We know where he's going to be planting. So it's not that big of a concern. And one major concern for the side of TTK is sometimes they have a bad habit of just slowing down way too much. We saw them take forever to reset up in that position. And don't get me wrong, it already looked grim as is. But if you are wasting more and more time and you still have to work refrags, it's just, you're stacking the odds against you even more, Carter.
Yeah, and of course, now that AQ have one bunk, they might try Throne again, but maybe they'll go to a different site. Maybe they'll go to Lab, try out Initiation, though Lab definitely has seemed to be the preferred one so far. But that could be a recurring issue for TTK, no matter where they were. Though, ironically enough, you'd think of all the sites that would have appeared on Throne, but they were able to just pretty effectively deal with a lot of the offsite players early on, open up maintenance very quickly. So it is almost the tale of two TookTheKids so far on what is the most defender favorite site on Theme Park. They were able to move fairly quickly throughout the round in what tends to be, a little bit more closer to the middle ground. They struggled very much once Packer was taken off the board.
So I am glad for TTK in general that they have been keeping things pretty close and have still been able to shine through in terms of creativity. Again, we saw that Echo play allowing Packer to swing wide and go in for a nice flank to stop that plant over on the Throne defense, and also a couple rounds back as well. I'm trying to think of it specifically, but it lost my mind, of course, when I'm actually trying to bring up that point, but it happens. I'm sure I'll remember it later on, but still having the ability to just change stuff on the dime. I believe I was thinking of the Sens pick, where they just threw a Sens, cut the site in half, and went for a pretty easy plant. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Being able to do stuff like that and still keep Aqualix on their toes is definitely a huge sigh of relief for them, especially since they were struggling to win rounds against Karn & Co., which, although they have seen massive strides of improvement going into the stage, we didn't really think much of Karn & Co. at the time, but now being able to go up against a team that almost beat Luminosity, the best team over on stage 1, it's definitely a walk in the right direction, I suppose.
Absolutely, but of course, still TTK consistently keeping it close as always. We are at 4-4 between both of these teams right now. One attack won, one attack lost by TookTheKids, or one defense won, one defense lost if you are an Aqualix fan, and that is what you're focusing on. I have a feeling they might try to tackle Throne again, just as, again, given how that site tends to play, maybe playing a little bit more like they were on Bunks and Daycare, maybe not getting as aggressive, trying to play behind some of those Kiva barriers and hoping and praying that Psychosis doesn't die early on like he did last time. Because that was definitely probably one of the biggest factors that swung against them, because that Azami offsite can obviously delay the push for the attack quite a bit, and then also throw some Kiva barriers inside of the site to make, once that maintenance wall is opened up and they start contesting from the breach in the doorway, a lot more palatable as well. And unfortunately, getting word that Tra has lost power.
Oof.
We're seeing if we can potentially get a substitute, but definitely going to be a little bit longer of a situation than we initially thought.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate, to be honest. Especially the worst time ever. You just equalize things 4-4. You're doing pretty good, having a lot of great entry stats, and going for a lot of X Factor plays, especially for Tra, and then you just get the boot by something that's out of your hand. That is, that's really unfortunate.
I don't know what it is with Challenger League this season and players' powers going out. I mean, we had
it happened stage
power
1 a
go
couple
out.
times.
Yeah. Twist has had to sub in both the days so far.
Yep.
Now Tra's power going out on day 2 as well. I know there was all the way back in SCS as well. Definitely a couple times where a player's power going out might have decided the outcome of a couple games. But either way, how we handle it here, we'll just have to see what happens. We will be taking a quick break, and then we'll be back in a few minutes with an update. the 11th hour, the moment before we were about to send it in a 4v5, Tra came back. Enter Tra back into the lobby. So we will not have a 4v5. Tra is here, John. And I have to say, the game has been saved.
Yeah, we saw him last second hop into the team speak, and then we had the respectability by TTK to wait an extra minute to get the full 5 to have a competitive matchup, as it already has been so close all the way up in round number 9, 4-4, and continuing now into offices. So it feels great too, despite having that small rehost, that small skip in our step, we are back to a full stride at this point, what it seems to be.
Yeah, shout out to TTK in the game chat. They were like, hey guys, if you're at the 4v5, do you want to play it? And TTK were like, no, we want to wait. We would like to play a 5v5 and get Tra back in the lobby. So shout out to TTK for the sportsmanship. Now, let's just hope they don't lose. Because after all, I mean, you know, AQ coming off a defensive win. They've had some time to at least the 4 of them talk things over. Move into initiation. Maybe they've got the wind in their sails now.
You know, I would be hoping, with predictions, you know, meaning so much to all casters and people in the talent
Yeah, I
pool,
live and die
that
by
TTK do lose. Yeah, that is what I'm actively hoping on, despite I avidly enjoy having conversations with to be from time to time. Anyways, though, at least it's been a close game, and at least there have been really good highlights for both AQ and TTK so far in this best of 1. Still having that Warden locked in by Psychosis to just make sure that if there is a Ying, if there is a Sense on the board, it's not going to be that much of a problem, especially if he can remain alive. But as of right now, it's just the standard selection here by TTK, except for probably the Nook, which they haven't brought out at all so far until now. But still, you get nades and you get the element of surprise once again, which could maybe find you a kill, since Packer is not too far away from Tra's position, actually.
No, he's not. Could try to work. Well, he could try to work a nade from below, or just take a fight with Tra right now, though. The Aruni is certainly weary of any potential presence over inside of lab. So Packer might not have the element of surprise you might have otherwise thought, but he'll cook a nade, send it into split, and ooh, Tra just barely evades it. Cooked even maybe half a second more. That probably explodes in his face. He can't even secure the kill on Psychosis right here. He's starting to work himself deeper and deeper into enemy territory, and he does not have many life rafts nearby.
Dealing loads of damage, but eventually taken care of by A for the shield, I believe, being destroyed, allowing Gavini to step up and refrag immediately onto Afer's body. So maybe having all that damage dealt onto Psychosis and giving the information that Tra was on the roam game could be very impactful for TTK, especially since Wooz is able to eliminate Gasher.
Psychosis will drop as a result, not wanting to hold too firmly onto that position given his low HP. But that does open up bunks wide open for the attack right now. I mean, not entirely. I mean, there is still some potential pressure from Tra and Psychosis now coming back. Beastly is in the other side, but he too now on very low HP. Also, sorry, Initiation Room and Office is the site. Excuse me. They're so close by to each other. Get it confused with my eyesight sometimes, but it doesn't change the fact that 2/3 of AQ are 1 bullet away from death. Spotted Tra, the only member even close to full HP at the moment, and he too is facing some very heavy fire from Trist on that hatch. He will now fall as a result. 2 bullets now separating TTK from an advantage in round count. Not even a bullet, it's a nade that does Beastly in the end. So what is Psychosis to do with no intel and only 1 HP? Well, lose the round to TTK.
Still having the ability of just gathering information again on that Nook play, dealing damage, and also allowing an opening to be made as well. No one was actively playing on that deployable shield. It allowed the Finka to just walk right on in, that being Gavini. He broke the shield, and he found an instant refrag onto the Jaeger of Afer as well. Wooz from across the window repel was able to shut down another player as well, granting that man advantage. And again, because there were already 1 to 2 players that were low in HP, it didn't take that much for TTK just to confirm a couple of extra kills, make sure those toxic smokes or those smart glasses were a problem for the final few moments of that round. And now they take the lead, despite having a bit of a mental reset for both teams and also a long time of wait in general.
Going back to Throne as well, I know during that break, you and I hypothesized, at least before we threw to a break, about what potential site they went to. I thought they might try to go for a second attempt at Throne. They instead went to Initiation, but now that we are on that site, first site they went to on the defense and unfortunately lost, I'm looking at Psychosis to see whether or not he's going to live past the first 45 seconds, because even if in an alternate universe they end up losing it, having that Azami alive to continuously generate Kiba barriers and not be stuck with, I think, the 3 total that Psychosis was even had the potential of throwing out, having even one more could definitely make things a lot more manageable for AQ.
Just slows down the offense altogether, especially starting out on the roam. You tend to see people either go on some sort of heavy lurk or just a complete roam setup when they're running the Azami because of how reactive you can utilize those key barriers. You can reset shields that were there earlier, make new lines of sights in general with those key barriers, essentially one-ways. So it can cause a lot of different obstacles to be thrown at the faces of TTK. But one thing to try to counteract a lot of that roam game early on is just to hit the map horizontally rather than vertically, and then later in the round when Aqualix begins to readjust their positions, then they begin to work a floor higher up.
Also, another thing to note that TookTheKids have, they have bamboozled AQ once again. AQ not bringing the ward in, and now Packer sticks with the Sens, so won't have anybody to look on through those little light screens once they cut the site in half. And AQ might be expecting it, but they don't have the utility to peer on through it. TTK, of course, we're a long way away from that right now, but Packer already charging one up, holding it in his hand, maybe trying to help Trist move on the roam, or just repelling in instead. Maybe just, you know, getting it ready, warming his muscles up for later on in the round.
I think with Woos getting control of top dragon, they realized, oh, I don't need to waste a projector here. We might need it for the site. Haven't seen anyone try to stop this thermite from opening up the back wall except for the mute, but again, the nitro cell, it's just way too far back. And finally, with that mute jammer being destroyed and no one there to trick the wall, it gets opened up once again just as easy as it was last time this site was in play.
Well, this time around, AQ do come away with the first pick. A for cutting down Trist on that top floor, who secured control of top dragon, but pushing on forward, he met a hell of a lot more trouble. Packer spots one, now pushing in 90, fortunately, for, well, Packer. Jaeger does not peek. He holds for the time being, not wanting to give away his life too soon. And it seems like TookTheKids might now start to push on in. Woo's cooking a nade. Yeah, definitely. Gavini and Packer are both now inside. Beastly does get one. It's TookTheKids in the disadvantage, but look at what they have. They have control of that throne. They've managed to go in with that light screen and get the bomb down successfully. But Gasher, he's pushing in from Dragon. Nobody's watching. They might be looking inside, but he's at least achieved a bit of control for the defense to push the attack from a completely different angle. Mr. B evens things up. Gavini gets on the board as well. A lot of pressure now coming on Gasher and Psychosis to even things 5-5. Knows someone's behind the throne, but he's running out of bullets. He's running out of time. Him and Psychosis both get one. It's all on the think of Gavini right now. Psychosis can Kiba the doorway, get himself a new angle. Gasher goes in for the defuse. Gavini can't react in time. Aqualix keep it even with TTK, and we might have another TookTheKids overtime game in Stage 2.
Once again, another flawless retake, not by TTK this time though, instead Aqualix. And like you had mentioned, because we still had a lot of that utility on the board, it made that readjustment much easier for Aqualix altogether. The smoke grenades, which didn't stop the plant from going down, mind you, but it did slow down TTK to an extent, which allowed the ability to rotate much easier for Gavini in particular, or not Gavini, sorry, but for Gasher in particular, the other G letter player starting in with that letter, but still, it allowed for just a small glimmer of hope. Gasher was able to find one, and then both the tag team of Gasher and also, I believe, was the Azami of Psychosis as well, just to clean things up, get that defuse down, and once again, for the 80th time, equalizing the round count, keeping it close, and like you mentioned, we're probably going to see overtime. It's a good chance of that.
Yeah, this was exactly how the TTK game went yesterday as well, so you and I certainly in for the long haul whenever we have Mr. B and his team enter the lobby. Going back to Bunk and Daycare right now, which is where AQ got their first defensive win, and it was one where TTK didn't really have a lot going, John. They lost Packer very early on, who was on that Flores, and kind of similar to AQ when they were trying to push Cash and Top Dragon. Just sat over there, then eventually rotated, but it was really AQ just seemingly in control the whole time.
Wondering what TTK might want to try to opt for this time around. Their clear over in through cash and control just was completely stopped by Aqualix. That forced a very late and lackluster rotate leading into Cafe, and with Aqualix fully acknowledging that it was just a push from Cafe, they just sat back, they wait for TTK to eventually enter the building, and they immediately sniped out the last few attackers that were left alive, and even doubling down on the passivity by allowing Woos to get the diffuser down, but still killing them because they had an easy 2-for-1 retake, as they pretty much knew where Woos would be in that position. It seems like for TTK, they are starting out a majority, if not all, their player base over in on the side of Cafe, just to make sure they don't have a late retake or rotate position, pardon, and potentially allowing some of these shields to get destroyed early on.
Oh, Woos cuts down Gasher early with a nade. Another example from AQ losing that Azami early on to enable themselves to play off of positions. They were still able to make it work with his shield last time, but before, Woos or Tra was able to play behind there until about a minute left. Now that position cleared a minute and 10 seconds into the round. So once TTK have decided to commit to this arcade and cafe side, whereas before they were hesitant to go to it until very late in the round, they have made great strides in achieving some momentum here.
Trying to enable Gavina to get extra up close and personal. Packer is continuing to drone things out. Psychosis gets downed as well. Technically a 5-on-3 until he can get revived. This is a pretty impressive position, and it's not just a funnel this time either by TTK, and look at this play by Packer. It's just a 1 versus 5 all to Apherd. He's off the site. He misses a vital shot, and the player stepping in through break room. Triss gets too aggressive, but again, it doesn't really seem to matter. It's still a retake 1v4 position for Apherd, and it's soon to be a post plant as well.
And now the bomb's gone on the floor. He could catch 1 or 2 players, rotating off to cover the diffuser. He spots 2 as they simultaneously peek him, but doesn't even do a little bit of damage to either one. Lined up for him, though. Could get lucky here, and that would certainly be a highlight play of the day if that were the case. Does a little bit of damage with the impact grenade to both of them. Nafer is struggling right now to get the confidence to move on in, and understandably so. Went outside in the long haul now as well. That's what does him in the end. Match point for TookTheKids, but again, this is Mr. B's team we're talking about. Don't be surprised if AQ win the next one and we have overtime.
Well, to be fair, they haven't typed in all chat yet, so
that is true. That is a good point.
No superstition just yet, and they've got the good karma because they waited for Tra to actually reconnect. So really, the stars are aligning for them.
That's a good point. That's a fair point.
Except you need to equalize this caster curse because I just said it on broadcast. So we're at equilibrium. So you know what? Overtime, there is a good chance of that still happening, but I really like the way that, in general, TTK just played over in on that last round. They didn't funnel. They readjusted. They adapted to the situations that Aqualix were throwing at them, and it completely threw Aqualix on a swivel at that point, to a point where I thought they wouldn't actually reattempt this site, but no. They're going to be going back to Bunk and Daycare once again, but to be fair, they have to pick from this site, either that or Throne, which they haven't done that great of a job of defending. Actually, no, they won that site last time, so they can't even go there. My fault. It's either this site, pretty much, or you go Lab, which is probably the most attacker-favored site out of all the selections here on the Deep Park.
Well, interesting choice by Gasher right here. See him drop the Azami in favor of a Bandit, and he can deny some hard breaching, but it's not like TookTheKids have been basing these bunk executes or these bunk attacks off a lot of hard breaching. They've mainly just been probing for openings, and once somebody seizes on 1 or 2 kills, they move forward with that opening, and at least previously were able to win a pretty convincing round. So maybe just trying to make sure those Selma charges, don't open up any key angles if anybody wants to play more comfortably inside of the site, not get an opening outside of break room. That could be very nice to make sure that nobody can sit on that rappel and then open up that wall completely and cut off parts of the site.
TTK going with the good old saying of it ain't broke, don't fix it. They want to go for pretty much the exact same setup they had on round number 11. Get that window pressure established, maybe trying to work a pick early on, and having the rest of their player base stack up near that yellow hatch, and also someone working their way in through Cafe Door 2 to actually have that crossfire established, breaking in that vital shield, and just trying to basically collapse upon the entire western front of this map. And so far, it's looking pretty all right. There's not even a shield actually stacked up in Cafe unless it's already been destroyed. We weren't able to catch that on camera, so I guess we'll never know. But so far, TTK, they're still making pretty good pace so far in this first minute.
They're doing all right so far. I do think this actually, the way this is going out, and the Zombie might help quite a bit, but there's still some time for Aqualix to make a good argument for taking this to overtime. Tra has moved out from his position on Arcade and instead moved into Daycare, so that leaves Beastly doing a lot of work holding top Arcade stairs right now, especially as 2 TTK members have made their way inside a Cafe. The first of 3 toxic canisters will go out, suffocate that window, denying anybody from moving on in. Now Tra looking to also help out Beastly and get a little bit aggressive on that doorway, but things might already be starting to turn for Aqualix.
Moves once again on that window rappel, is able to take care of Psychosis. At least it's just one less weapon to worry about here on the side of TTK. It seems like Toxic Smokes are still slowing down that window hopping, but besides this denial of the window hopping, it's still a lot of map control being established by TTK, and they still have a minute to work with as well.
Afer opens up another avenue to rotate to put some pressure onto Gavini's position, or at least catch the attack off guard. But with Woos on that repel, Gavini taking control of Cafe, Aqualix are going to have to start getting aggressive and taking some fights in order to stop TookTheKids from getting even more control than they already have. But it's not working out, as Afer likely tries to peek out from office. He falls to Packer, and Beastly is just waiting for the pressure to mount on Cafe and Arcade stairs. He's got the shotgun pulled out, sees Trist for just a second, downs him 2 pumps to finish off the sledge, but somebody peeks and he wins it anyway! Aqualix suddenly retake the momentum, but it's still even. Woos brings it back. And Beastly on low HP, he's now given up his position. He has to rotate back to the site. Woos and Gavini have control completely, save for Tra alone right now. Likely have to play retake for AQ. TookTheKids running out of time. Woos waiting for the Jaeger to peek, but he doesn't finish the kill. Tra smokes him anyway. It's Gavini alone. To win this in regulation, he somehow tanks the headshot. What a madman, eating the bullet between his teeth. And now just one more bullet again to do Beastly in. To get TTK a regulation win, one that always seems impossible for them to make happen. Certainly be a great way to end this game on Theme Park. Obviously not running out of intel. The pre-fire works! 7-5 for TTK. The sportsmanship and quietness in all chat does them a big favor on Theme Park.
It seems like they have broken the curse on Theme Park, not even needing overtime, ending it out in the full 12-round setup. And you know what? I feel like we could have definitely seen overtime there. If we saw the Jaeger be a little more disciplined, already having the information that the Finka was in that corner, waiting for Beastly to tag team, that could have been a chance for redemption there, especially since Beastly made such a power play over near Arcade Stairs. But when you've got to worry about the biggest dynamic duo, which is Gavini with that LMG on Finka, I mean, I'd be shaking too, and I would try to go for that pre-fire swing just to hope that you can at least shut that guy down and at least guarantee overtime.
Yeah, in the 4 rounds since we got back, he was averaging a 2 KPR, so definitely having a great post-rehost game coming out from Gavini, and especially finishing off that 1v2. But yeah, really, hats off to Beastly, by the way. Just still bringing that bag very closely for Aqualix, but unfortunately, not it in the end. And I'm pretty sure I heard CJ enter the call, and that might have been him laughing about his TTK prediction. I'm not entirely
he's
sure.
He's laughing
but
at the bank now.
Yeah, he probably is. We can throw it back to the analyst desk anyway to talk about TTK winning in regulation for once in their lives.
Okay, so I'm tasked with sitting here, watching matches, and trying to come up with questions to ask. And I'm not going to lie, round by round, my questions were changing, because every time I felt certain of the game flowing in one direction, it started going the other way. And Cookies, I'll just let you talk about it, because I mean, hats off to you. You're the only one who guessed this one correctly.
Look at your screen. Did y'all see the replay of Woos getting Amarud in on?
No, my eyes are closed right now.
It was around that point where I thought, wow, I just trolled myself and everyone that ever believed in me. But you know what? Mr. B and Packer Star and Gavini's Italian pizza. You know what they did? They defied all odds. And they won this game. What a ball club. What a ball club they have over there, Mr. B. I mean, Aqua, and let me tell you, Aqualix, you guys, man. I knew y'all were setting yourselves up for disappointment for picking them, because that's just how it goes with Aqualix. You set yourself. I don't even know how they lost this game, to be honest. TookTheKids is running Cav. They ran Cav unironically and still won this game. So.
Twice. Didn't get anything with it either time either.
No.
Zero
But they
interrogations.
still won the game. I don't have any analysis. I don't know how they won.
I do.
You can ask Mr. B about it though, Brim. You can have fun talking to the winner.
We will in a second, but Tanner. Okay, if we don't know how TTK did it, which we'll find out from Mr. B in a second, what about Aqualix's game just did not come together? Because I mean, opening round, we thought when they came in, they blew the doors down. We were like, oh, this is it. This is Aqualix. This is their game. And they had one or two other rounds kind of similar to that, but it kind of fell apart most other rounds.
Yeah, so there's two things here at Factor I want to talk about. So the first one is the Backstock special is coming to Aqualix. There was zero adapting to what happened. It was like, well, they just lost, Bunk's defense absolutely got blown out of the water. They were losing because of Flores. He was clearing all their utility. And then what do? They go right back to the same site, play the exact same lineup. They don't make any
Mhm.
adjustments for the Flores that just mop them, and boom, there it goes. It's like a repeat of history. The second thing I want to say is that Rehost really, I feel like really woke TTK up, because in the beginning they were missing every shot. It's like, where's your warm-up scrim? And this was an issue I talked about in stage 1. It's like they don't do warm-up scrims, and they just come in completely dry, have no idea what it was. I mean, they were whiffing shots. I can't remember that 1v1. I think it was
No,
Beastly.
I remember.
Was it Beastly versus was it
Gavini.
Woos?
Gavini who dropped 16. You know what?
He fired 100. He fired 150 bullets to kill Beastly. Like, it's a one-shot headshot game. Like, just hit your damn shots. Sorry, but you just got to hit your shots.
Gavini.
Like, that was brutal. So if there's anything to take away from TookTheKids this game, is get a warm-up scrim, hit your shots. I don't even want to see what the headshot percentage was in this game, or like just the accuracy percentage, because it was brutal. It was brutal. But they managed to pull it away. They did some really good gameplay with Sens. You could see the adapting coming out from Mr. B, the forethought and how they wanted to go in attack sites, and they were very good on their attacking half, which was the complete opposite case of what we saw coming from Aqualix.
Okay, well, I guess all that's left to do now is ask Mr. B a few questions about this match. This is a roster that I brought this up. I'd just like to point this out for myself, for my own analytics, CJ, that sometimes I'm able to do it. His leadership, he's actually managed to wrangle this team together and make something of it. Sure, questionable decisions, 2 cav rounds, maybe some missed shots, but they made it work. It didn't just take Aqualix making mistakes. Mr. B took this team and made something happen.
Mr. B is the greatest IGL in T2 right now.
I don't know if I agree with that.
You know what? Who's better? Who do you think's better?
I don't know. Reed. That's just one.
Reed should have lost the Karn today.
Prod.
I don't know. That B sounding like it's for bold statement right now. But let's talk to Mr. B.
Mr. B's my goat.
Let's figure it out.
Mr. B's my goat.
Mr. Biblical, Mr. Bill Dipperly. Okay, Mr. B.
Hello.
To see you again.
It's always lovely.
You guys, come on. You took us on a roller coaster right there. Okay, things like the Cav picks. What was up with the Cav picks? I'm not knocking you. I'm genuinely curious. Did it work?
Well, so it didn't actually work today. The main reason I think Cav has a little bit more viability now, especially on sites like that, because there's a lot of solo pushing, right? Especially with like that knock. So if we can use the Cav to get the knock, then we get an Intero, and then we win the round instantly, right? It's like it's a risk reward, and on a tertiary site, I'm willing to pull that out. But we were pretty creative coming up with our theme park. I think it definitely paid off. Yeah, it really saved our asses.
Well, what's it been like? Because this is a really revamped roster for you guys. What's it been like getting everyone together, getting everyone on the same page?
It's been pretty difficult, but honestly, some of it has been really good. I think the team listens super well. Everyone works together really nicely. It's a really good environment. And I think, the results are just going to come out of that, right? It'll take some time. It'll keep taking effort. We've had less time than almost any other roster to, get our stuff sorted, right? Like Oregon, we had played that one time before yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we're going to be a little sloppy. Of course, we're going to make some mistakes, right? So, we're doing our best. I think with a little more practice, we can be the top CL.
Well, talking about this, the first weekend, the first 2 play days, you've had some long matches, hard-fought matches. What have been your thoughts on your play through the first couple games?
My individual play, it's been all right, but nothing like too insane. Especially this game, it was less than mid. But I think my team has played really well. I think we're working nicely as a team. Still got to work on that dinner table conversation, making sure everyone is making their individual plays. Thought it really showed up a lot more today than it did yesterday. Outside of that, I'm pretty happy. Yeah, I think still just sorting out the little things here and there, but I'm really, really happy with this roster and where we're going.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, and we are all excited to see more. Thanks, Mr. B. We'll talk soon.
Shout out, Gavin. You went huge.
So it is Gavin.
I told you.
I thought that it was an Italian, a foreign, player brought in.
Gavin, yes.
Gavin.
Yes.
I prefer
Yes,
Cookie's ways. I prefer Cookie's ways. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I could kiss him. Gavini. What a great performance.
Okay, well, that was a chef's kiss of a game, but we've got one more matchup today. We're going to see Gaiman Gladiators for the first time this stage, and they're going to be taking on Nocturnes in just a few minutes.